My family means the world to me. Being the oldest sibling of 4, I have always felt a little responsible for them. I want to be there for them, protect them, and help them find their way when they need it. Little did I know that my sisters would be the ones to actually help me find my way. When I was younger, I thought I knew what it was like to be a Christian. But then, when my sisters invited me to Wake, I saw something so different. These people loved and walked with Jesus. They didn't just follow rules. Experiencing that difference changed my faith and my life forever. You never know what one invite, one friend, one family member can do and just how Jesus can use them. I am living proof. My name is Brenna Everett, and this is my yearbook.
What is up, Wake? How we doing? Can y'all hear me? Okay, cool. This is so new and different for me, so I was just making sure. My name is Brenna Everett, and I'm a senior at Cambridge High School. And I'm going to Samford University in the fall. Woo! I am super excited to be here with y'all to share my story and all of the things I've learned over these past 4 years of high school. But before I jump in, I thought I'd give y'all some fun facts because I love icebreakers, so why not? So, first fun fact you need to know about me. I love dancing, Cupid Shuffle, Cha-Cha Slide, Wobble, I love dancing. PJ, I don't know where you are, but you're in here somewhere. Found you, what's up? PJ and I's favorite hobby to do is just dance. I'm not kidding. We could probably perform a bunch of them by heart for you at this point. So if we have a long day, just dance. And I've had some, pretty humbling pictures being taken of me this year after dancing, because I I get into it when I'm dancing. So here's one of them. This is at Sean's wedding, so you're welcome, Sean. And then there's another one. This one was actually at the Escape. Yeah, so I get into it when I dance. I love dancing. Second thing you need to know about me is, so I sing on Wednesdays. I love singing, but I've always loved singing ever since I was little. But it used to be in the form of theater kid. I used to be a theater kid, and I was actually Annie in a play one time. And here's me as Annie. Yeah, okay, anyway, moving on. All right, so last fun fact you need to know is I've never broken a bone before in my life, which is actually pretty good. And sometimes people make fun of me because I'm also an almond milk drinker. So they're like, you don't get your calcium in. I don't know how you don't have thin bones. I don't either. I just never broken a bone. But I've had my fair share of scrapes and cuts and bruises and stuff. And freshman year, I just moved to Milton. And I face planted on a treadmill, absolutely ate it. And if you get a little squirmish, just look in the back for me, because it's not too bad, but you can probably handle it. So this is me freshman year. Yep. All of, most of freshman year. And keep in mind, I had just moved here, minimal friends. So I was walking around looking like that. Okay, so now I feel like y'all know me, just a little bit more, and you've seen some humbling pictures of me. Okay. So now I'm going to hop into my story. I'm blessed enough to grow up in a Christian household. We went to Mass every Sunday because I grew up Catholic. And the idea of Jesus was introduced to me at a very young age, which I'm super thankful for. But it took a while for me to grasp exactly who Jesus was and just how much he loved me as a person. I grew up in Lilburn, Georgia, in Gwinnett County. I was your classic oldest sister, goody two-shoes, always wanted to do the best that I could. I'm a very big rule follower, very big. And I was always trying to impress my parents, whether it had to be grades or sports. I just always wanted to do the absolute best that I could to make them proud. And this came into the category of Jesus as well. I went to Mass every Sunday, but to be honest, I wasn't really grasping what was happening. And I'm super, I can't say it enough how thankful I am for the way that I grew up Catholic, but for a long time I didn't grasp what was happening, and so I was just attending. Honestly, Ansley and Campbell, y'all know this. There was often times we'd zone out or start coloring or count how many people had the same kind of color shirt on in Mass, and I wasn't really grasping what was happening at this age. So going into middle school, I honestly didn't know what truly having a faith meant. I would always refer to myself as a Christian girl, though. And to be honest, I lived the very stereotypical Christian girl lifestyle. Everyone knew me as that Christian girl or the Jesus freak. I really did think that the life I was living in this stagnant Christian lifestyle was really all that Jesus and being a Christian had to offer. which was just staying away from bad things and telling people that they should love Jesus just like I do. So if you think that the extent that Jesus has to offer is like staying away from bad things and just doing the good things, let me tell you, you haven't even scraped the surface of what Jesus has in store for you. Like, that's where I was, and I thought that just staying away from bad things and doing things that were better and made me feel like a better person, I guess, was being a Christian, and like, that's not even y'all don't even know. So in 7th grade, I started to get a little more curious on how to get involved in my own faith, like start taking steps for myself. And my family was super involved in Young Life growing up, and I wasn't in high school yet, so we didn't have wildlife in Lilburn also. And so I couldn't do Young Life for myself. Like, I would just go to the family retreats with them, so I couldn't do high school Young Life. So one day, one of my close friends brought up this organization called Thrive, which is basically FCA, like y'all have that at high schools, but it's for middle school. So it was like middle school FCA. And it sounded like a lot of fun. So I went to one of their gatherings on Friday morning. These gatherings consisted of an opening song, a short message, and prayer circles. Super laid back, and I was like, this is exactly what I'm looking for. That's totally what I thought I was looking for. Word got around that they were in need of a new guitar player, and I was very interested. My dad grew up playing guitar and wanted me to play guitar for a really long time. Like, ever since I was little, guitar was always like a thing in our house. And he wanted me to learn so bad in like elementary school, and I'd get so frustrated because my hands were so small and I couldn't really get the chords. But suddenly I got all the motivation in the world to start playing guitar when they needed me. So I started playing guitar. So I played guitar and led worship for the rest of my 7th grade year and into my 8th grade year. I made some really good friends who really loved Jesus at that time. At one of the Thrive meetings, our speaker was the pastor of the local Baptist church that was in our area. And he offered me a place to sing on their Wednesday night gatherings. And honestly, I couldn't be more excited. This was a big deal for me. I asked my parents, and they were like, yeah, like that's so fun. You can totally do that. But they encouraged me to still go with them to Mass on Sundays. So it was like, yeah, you can go do this, but I encourage you to like, please still come with us on Sundays so that you're like still doing the Catholic thing with us. And I was like, cool, I can do that. So I did that. Worship quickly became where I felt the most connected with the Lord. And honestly, it still is. Like, worship is like my thing. That's how I like feel closest to Jesus, and it definitely started at this time of my life. I got very plugged into this Baptist church, and I felt the closest to God that I'd ever felt. And when I was in, I think it was the end of 7th grade, I asked my parents if I could get baptized because I had been super involved in this church, and I was really on fire for Jesus, and I was like, can I please get baptized? And it was not an easy conversation because we had to talk a little bit more about like, hey, like this is what we believe in the Catholic Church, and ultimately it ended up in me not getting baptized. I was like, okay, lit. So I didn't get baptized, which is fine because it happens later. But anyway, to be honest, it frustrated me a little bit because a lot of my 7th grade friends at this time were getting baptized, and I was like, cool, I'm just gonna stand in the back and watch y'all get baptized. And so it was kind of frustrating at the time. But I didn't let that hold me back, and I stayed involved. So my weeks looked like this all the rest of my 8th grade year. Wednesday night, church at the Baptist church. Friday morning, Thrive in the gym, which was really small. And then Sunday, Mass. And it just looked like that for the rest of my 8th grade year. To be honest, the other 4 days, yeah, that's right, were just normal school days, in my opinion. And I honestly lived my school days looking forward to the days that I had an event that had to do with Jesus. So I was like, oh, Tuesday, so tomorrow's Wednesday, so tomorrow I'm gonna feel really good about Jesus. That's kind of how I lived my life, like seriously, for the rest of 8th grade year. Looking back now, I realized that I was restricting my faith into 4 walls. I felt closest to Jesus when I was in an event that like he was being talked about. But when I hadn't grasped at this age was that like Jesus, you're supposed to talk about him in so many other places than just the church. Like you can't base your foundation on a church. You have to base it on Jesus. And the church is great. Like obviously, like I love Stone Creek. So like it's definitely necessary, but you have to like base your foundation on Jesus first before understanding like how much he loves you. And that's where I was kind of struggling at this point. Let me tell you this, weight cannot be the end of your faith. Like if you come on Wednesdays and you feel super close to Jesus, that's awesome. But it has to like walk with you through the rest of the week, and it changes your life once it does. I promise you. Like take it from me. God is bigger than what happens inside of these walls. He is so much bigger. Like it's ridiculous. And it took me a long time to grasp this, but he is so much bigger than what happens. In 1 Chronicles 29:11, it says, "Yours, O Lord, is the greatness and the power and the glory and the victory and the majesty. For all that is in the heavens and in the earth is yours. Yours is the kingdom, O Lord, and you are exalted as head above all." Greatness, power, glory, victory, majesty. When I think of all those words, I think big. I think majesty, royal, big things. There's no way we can put that Jesus inside of four walls or however many are in this room. You know what I'm saying. There's no way we can do that. And I did not know this at the time, so I stuck to my 3-day-a-week Jesus fix. And I did this all the way until 8th grade graduation. Just like the season that we're in right now, everything started to die down, and so the Wednesday night gatherings stopped, and then Thrive stopped, and then all that I had was Mass. And like I said, the main way I gained an understanding of Jesus growing up was through the lens of the Catholic Church. And in my experience, I kind of took it as this list of rules. And it took me a while to understand that God was a God of love. And it was in my head, it was boring, if that makes sense. And it was just taught to me in a way that I didn't fully grasp. And I wanted to so bad, but I wasn't grasping it quite yet. There's a book that I read this year with Jackie called Beautiful Outlaw. Recommend it, really good. And one of the quotes says, "For too many people, the Christ they know is too religious to love, too distant to experience, and too rigid to be a source of life." That, my favorite part of this is too distant to experience. He is not at all. And in my brain at this point in my life, when I had grown up Catholic, I had this thought that Jesus was so far from me. He was this really big, almighty king, and he is, and we shouldn't not pay attention to that because that is totally something that he is. But he's also your dearest friend who wants to know every single thing about you, and it took me a while to grasp that, but then I did. When I began to come to Stone Creek, which I'll dive more into in a second, I began to understand that Jesus is bigger than the box I felt like I put him in. He wasn't a God of religion, he was a God of relationship, and he wanted all of me, and it was rooted in love, not judgment. Matthew 22:37 says this, "You shall love the Lord your God with all of your heart, all of your soul, and all of your mind." This is the first commandment. And our faith isn't one of religion because it's one of relationship. And I know that everyone in this room, when you think of the word love, you think of ooh, love, relationship love. And I do too. And so the first commandment God says to us is literally a word that has to tie into relationship. And so the first thing he wants us to do is love. And that's, to me, proves that our relationship with God is genuinely a relationship and not just a religion. And 1 John 4:19, it also says, "We love because he first loved us." He loved us first so that we can A, love others, but B, so that we can love him back and have this genuine friendship, this genuine intimate relationship with him that is solely based on love and not the religious ties that come into it. I want y'all to hear me on this one. Don't give up on Jesus because you were taught about him in a way you didn't understand. You can't. Because I would have given up a long time ago if I gave up. I would have not understood and I would not be here. Because there are so many ways that you can learn about Jesus, and I guarantee you that there is a way that you will understand at some point. So don't give up just because it's not clicking right now. I promise you it will get better. Now let me say this. I'm beyond thankful for my years attending Mass. It introduced me to the topic of Jesus at a very young age. It grew my family and I closer together, but I wasn't quite grasping anything that was being said. So going into the summer after my 8th grade year, now we're back on track. After my 8th grade year, I honestly began to just die down. Everything had stopped and all I had was Sunday Mass. This was also the summer that we packed up all our stuff and moved to Milton. It was a summer full of change. My weeks that used to be filled with these events turned into Mass if we could get there in the midst of all our moving and stuff. And then before I knew it, I had picked up every last box and left all my friends behind, and I was in Milton, and I'm still here, and I love it. But we were starting a new chapter of life. My parents started looking around for Catholic churches, and to be honest, I was really not excited. We landed at a local Catholic church, and I honestly checked out immediately in my brain. I dreaded waking up on Sundays, and I would honestly sometimes hope that my lacrosse game would be really early in the morning on Sunday. And so y'all remember me saying I'm a goody two-shoe girl? Yeah, so that's still, it kind of still is that, but it carried on with me when I got here in freshman year. And I went to Mass because obviously my whole family was going, and I knew that it would make my parents proud that I was going to something that they cared about so much. But I wasn't grasping anything still, had no idea what was happening. And I was like, ooh, we're in high school now. We're going to branch out and go to these like youth events that they have for me. And so I went to a youth event, and it was just like, I felt like something was so missing. And you could just tell that like no one was on fire for Jesus. And I remember asking this one person, I was like, so like, why do you come like every week? And she was like, because my parents make me. And I was like, okay. But I still kept going. I really did keep going. And around this time, my sisters had been invited to Wake by some of their school friends, and they started going every week. I honestly wanted nothing to do with it. I can't really explain the feeling why, but I was so worried that my parents would think of me as like hopping denominations or like being a traitor. And so I told myself that people came to Stone Creek because it was more fun and more of a production, and I wanted to learn about Jesus on a serious level, and I thought I could only learn about Jesus on a serious level in a traditional, serious church. So I was like, you know what? This can be Ansley and Campbell's thing, and y'all are gonna have fun with it. And I just assumed that things would click for me in Catholic church at some point, and that I was being the mature person because I was staying with it. They still did not click. So I decided to not get involved with Stone Creek at all. Like, I made a mental note. I was like, this is Ansley and Campbell's thing. I'm gonna let them have this. And I assumed my parents, honestly, like in the back of their head, were not super happy with the amount that Ansley and Campbell were coming here and then like going back, which is so not true. Now, obviously, I know that now. But I had that in my head. And it was at the point every week where my sisters would, this is a sophomore year now, so I have my license at this point. They would ask me to drive them because, you know, you're an older sister and you turn into an Uber really quick. So they'd ask me to drive them, and I'd say yes, and we'd pull into the Stone Creek parking lot, and they're like, you sure you don't want to come inside to Wake? I'm like, no, it's really not my thing. Like, y'all got it. I'll be back. Just text me when to pick you up. And I did that for a really long time. Like, I would drop them off and let them enjoy it, and I came home and just waited to go pick them back up. So one day I was leaving the church, and I hate that left turn right there, like so bad. Like I still will like go this way every time to avoid it. Like I won't do it. Because I got in my first car accident taking that nasty left turn out there. And we always say that like, oh, like that was God's sign that you should have probably stayed at Wake that day. And if it was a sign, I didn't listen at all because I went home after every week since then. But one day, I remember my sisters asking my parents to get baptized. And to my surprise, they said yes. I immediately got flashbacks to how excited I was to ask my parents about baptism when I was their age, and how quickly we kind of shut that idea down. But here the girls were, asking for permission and just getting it. I was honestly furious. I remember going to my room really tensed up because of how unfair I thought the whole situation was. So a few weeks later, it's baptism day. My whole family trickled in. I came late. I sat a row behind my parents. I think I had lacrosse or something. The music started to slow down. My sisters started to share their story, and they hopped in. And it was a very weird feeling that I had. I was so, like, really, really proud of them, but really mad at the same time. I can't really explain it. So my sisters hopped in, and I look up my parents in front of me, and they're, like, so moved with emotions, and they're crying. And I'm just like, whoa, this is weird for me. And before I knew it, I was crying too. I was crying out of anger, I think, at least at first, because I was so angry that my parents let my sisters do something that I wanted to do at their age so badly. But then my tears slowly started turning into tears of jealousy, tears of longing to view Jesus the way that my sisters did. And they came home so full of joy from all of these events, and I wanted to feel and understand Jesus the way that they were. And I was a hot wreck right over there, like on the floor. And they were so evidently on fire for Jesus. It was insane. And they were in middle school. Well, I think, yeah, Campbell was maybe in elementary. No, she wasn't. So young, though, like so young. And I was so frustrated, and I sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. But I let my pride get in the way, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to secretly be a little bit frustrated with my parents, and I'm going to go to Mass with them so I can get my points back. Like, I am just going to stick with this, and I did. Then COVID hit, and the Catholic church that we had been attending shut down completely, so our family was on the hunt for a new place to attend on Sundays. Naturally, we gravitated towards Stone Creek because of Ansley and Campbell loving it so much. We started going every week, but I would just sit in the back with my family, and I was kind of just a shadow. I made no attempt to get to know anyone really because I was here for Jesus, so I didn't really need to make any friends. Like, I was just in, I was listening, and I was out, and we were good. I continued to let Stone Creek be my sister's thing. I let them have their fun, know their friends. They'd be like, oh, this is my sister Brenna, and y'all, I was just like, oh, hey, nice to meet you. Like, I was done. Like, it was very rare that I would, like, sit around and, like, talk. Then the summer hit. My sister's working Camp Arrowhead. Shameless plug. You should work at Camp Arrowhead. I love Camp Arrowhead. So my sisters are working camp. I had already committed to a summer job working somewhere else. And my siblings would come home every day from camp, absolutely exhausted, like so tired, but so full of joy and energy at the same time. Weird mix, but it makes sense. They would always walk out of the house at the crack of dawn in some vibrant, crazy, funky outfit, and I was never understood what was happening. And I got FOMO really quick, which is fear of missing out. If you don't know, I have that. The summer went on, the escape rolled around. This was the summer that we got a ton of scholarship money donated to our church, and the second my sisters found out about it, they immediately started begging me to come. And it didn't take that much convincing because it's the beach for free. So I was like, yeah, that makes sense in my head. So it didn't sound too bad, and I signed up. A few weeks before the escape, some people that were working camp decided they wanted to meet on their own time to pray in expectance for what was going to happen at the escape. Now, keep in mind, I had never done something like this before. I had never been, invited to go out and do something like not church organized, if that makes sense. And so Ansley got invited, and she was like, dude, you should totally come with me. Like, it'll be fun. And I was like, you know what? I think I know a few people at this thing now. Like, I'll definitely go. So we go, and it was honestly, like, incredible. Like, it was incredible. And normally I would just, like, drop her off at these things and go home, but I'm, like, so glad that I stayed. So we walk onto the field that we were gathering at, and there's, I think 10 or 15 people. And it was supposed to just be, this night of worship, maybe an hour or so, and then prayer. And I was like, I can handle that. I can do this. I got that. Because this was new to me at this point. And I'm like, I can do that. I've probably heard these songs before. And so we start singing, we circle up, and it did not turn into just a worship, like, hour-long thing. It went for a really, really long time. And this was, like, really big for me because I felt so at peace in this environment. And, like, I remember, like, lifting my hands in worship and, like, feeling, like, really, really at peace. And I had always thought, which this is terrible, but I had always thought that people would lift their hands in worship to be like, oh, hey, I'm better Christian than you, look at me go. And I was like, y'all are so exaggerated, it's ridiculous. But after this event, I was like, oh, wait, this makes a lot of sense. Like, I feel so connected to God right now. Like, I'm literally laying everything down for him. And so I remember vividly, like, that was when I raised my hands in the air and, like, changed my worship game for life. And, but anyway, so we worship, and then we break off into little prayer triangles, and that was also kind of a new concept for me because they were just like, all right, let's break off. And I was like, what is happening? So we break off into prayer triangles. I prayed with, like, so many different people, and backtrack, Ansley introduced me to every single one there, and every single person was actually so nice. I was like, hello? Like, y'all are so great. And so we pray, and then it went on for a really, really long time, like, into the night. And I get home that night, and, like, stuff is stirring. I'm like, what is going on? And it was, like, absolutely incredible. So if you remember, David and Jake also talked about this moment in their stories, and I think it's so important to realize why. I think that any of you guys got a group of people and went out to a field or a parking lot and prayed and just, like, with no agenda, no time frame, and just asked the Holy Spirit to move, you would be absolutely amazed and shocked in how the Holy Spirit would move in your life and the things that he would provide. So all of these things were happening before I got on the escape. And so I'm sitting here and I'm like, if this is happening in Milton, what's going to happen on this retreat? Like, oh my goodness. And let me tell you, the escape blew absolutely every expectation I could possibly have out of the water. This trip truly changed my life. For a week, I was surrounded by people who were on fire for Jesus. I will never forget what it felt like after going into my first session. Like I said, big dance girl, right? And these hype songs came on. I was like, what's happening? Because if you've been to Mass before, it's really not like that. And so I was like, there's a lot of lights and there's a lot of boom and bang and kabow. And I was like, this is great. Like, I love this. And I was a little bit hesitant at first, I'm not going to lie, because I had this like idea that when you're worshiping Jesus, it needed to be serious. We're kiboshing that right now, but let me tell you why. So Jesus, like worshiping Jesus is also supposed to be fun. But don't get me wrong, like some of my favorite worship songs are these slow songs, and there's totally a time for that and a place for that. But like Jesus also wants us to have a lot of fun. And I think that sometimes we don't think about that. And on this like retreat, it was after, I think it was the first like hype song, I guess you would say, Jackie said something, and it was like, normally I would kind of like try to like settle this down because, you know, people are like jumping and crazy. She was like, but I've come to learn that like Jesus is fun, and like we're supposed to have fun worshiping Jesus, and he's not like, oh, y'all need to chill out and be more serious. Like he loves when we're having fun. And that was, hearing Jackie say that like switched my whole demeanor for the entire weekend, which I was super thankful for. My small group that first night, oh, it was so intentional and so like different than any little like group or gathering that I've ever been in before. We didn't have these like shallow conversations. They were like deep combos, like real life stuff that's going on. And it was so like incredible to me, like listening to all of this. And not to mention I had the most fun ever with that group ever. Like shout out all of you, it was so fun. The escape made me realize that I was really ready for a real relationship with Jesus, a personal relationship, and to start my own faith journey with no strings attached to my parents. I was ready to start pursuing an intimate relationship with Jesus. So pause. Y'all need to sign up for the escape, for real. It is so fun. I promise you, you will not regret it at all. You'll make some of your best memories ever, and you'll dance a lot, so like, come on. All right. Back on track. So when we got back from the escape, I was like all in. I wanted any and every reason to be at the church. It quickly became a home away from home, which I'm so thankful to say. They were looking for extra counselors for the second half-ish of camp, and I honestly couldn't say yes fast enough. I dropped my other summer job. I literally texted her. I was like, yo, something came up. I'm super sorry. Dropped my other summer job, started working. And that summer was one of the best summers of my life. Everyone was so welcoming, and it was so fun spending my day like with others who were so on fire for Jesus and had a passion in telling kids about the gospel. Summer came to an end, and you would think that my camp high probably started to die down by now. But honestly, at this point, it hadn't, and I'm like so happy to say that. I was still so on fire for Jesus. So throughout the school year, I started to pour into my friendships who were leading me closer to Christ. This naturally distanced me from some other friends, which was honestly quite hard. I was chasing after different things now, and so our friendship started to sizzle out. I was always with my Stone Creek people, and honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way. Like, y'all are awesome. But fast forward, the rest of the school year, I came to like Wait Cafe. Like literally any time the door was unlocked, you'd probably see me here because I wanted to be here all the time. And so the school year goes into the fall, and then the winter, and then pause comes around. And I knew I had to go because I hadn't been. But I knew that if the escape was awesome, that pause had to be awesome too. So it was another great retreat for me. It helped me continue to grow my faith. And I went out on a limb to invite KK, which y'all heard about. And I'm so glad that I did. This weekend had a huge impact on me, but it had a huge impact on me because I got to watch the Lord move in someone else's life firsthand. And that was like the most incredible thing to experience. I know of a lot of times like you're hesitant to invite friends to Wake. But, KK, like, you don't understand how God can use you to, like, spread joy to someone else or to, like, get someone else into a life with Jesus that changes their life forever. So, like, we have Escape coming up, like I said. Please, like, be bold and invite people. Like, I promise you it'll be worth it. It's gonna be the best trip ever, I'm just saying. One small gesture can lead to ultimate life change, and that's something that's worth taking a risk for. When we got back, I was still super into it. I knew that I was going to apply for the internship, and I knew that it meant dropping other things. So I quit Cambridge lacrosse the day before tryouts, my junior year. I decided that I wanted to dedicate all my free time to serving the Lord. That following February, I got baptized finally. I realized that I loved Jesus way too much to not get baptized, and I wanted everybody to know. And the best part was that at this point, my family did support me, which was awesome. But ultimately, it was my own decision, stepping into my own faith journey that had no strings attached to my parents. Just me. just me and Jesus. My life with Jesus looked so different now. I was now living for him every single day, not just on the days that I was in church or had an event to attend that was talking about Jesus. I really started to prioritize my quiet time with the Lord, and this changed everything. When you begin to make your faith your own, everything changes. Knowing of Jesus does not compare to knowing Jesus. And this is something I really grasped once I started putting in the effort outside of the church events. Because yes, Stone Creek is great, and they poured into me, and I would not be where I am without them. But I started feeling super, super close to Jesus when I started pouring into my quiet time. That's when you really get to know who Jesus is. And at this point, I didn't know of Jesus like I did when I was growing up Catholic. Like, I knew Jesus on a personal level. I knew him as one of my closest friends who loved me. And that changes the absolute game. Something I want to say is James 4:8. It says, "Come near to God, and he will come near to you." Jesus, he will always meet you where you're at. He will always meet you where you're at, but the closer you are to him, the closer he's going to want to come to you, and it's just going to make your quiet time and your time with Jesus outside of the church so much better. This past year has been absolutely incredible. I have had the blessing of being an intern and working alongside other people who are on fire for Jesus and have servant hearts. Being here every day has extremely benefited my faith and made me want to dive even deeper into the purpose God has for me and the plans he wants to pursue in my life. So, with that being said, I have some people I would like to thank. To my parents, thank you for introducing me to Jesus at such a young age and for constantly pushing me to be the best version of myself. I would not be here without y'all. To my small group leaders, Becky, Teresa, and Lorinda, thank you for creating such an opening and safe environment for me and all of the girls in our group. We all feel that we can bring our true, authentic selves to the table and that you're not going to judge us and you're going to meet us right where we're at and help us with the best next steps. I love y'all. To Dr. Boatwright, his name also Doc. Thank you for creating such a welcoming environment in your classroom. Whether you know it or not, the Lord used your classroom in some amazing ways this year. It was such a joy to walk into your class listening to worship music these past 2 years. There should be more teachers like you. You're awesome. To Sarah Muller, thank you for being such a good friend. You've always pushed me in my faith and stirred my heart to go more into depth in learning who Jesus truly is. I love you and your creative mind, and it's been such a joy watching the Lord use you in amazing ways in New York. You're so special, and I'm forever thankful for our friendship. To Carson Knopf, thank you for your intentionality. You welcomed me to camp my first year with wide open arms and made me feel like I'd been there the entire summer. The way you boldly lead is incredible. You're so passionate about the gospel, and I've loved watching you change the atmosphere in kids on Sundays. Olivia, you got a good one. Kennedy, thank you for stepping in and being so welcoming to me the second I started getting involved in Wake. You immediately helped me get plugged in and feel like I was in the right place, and I'm forever thankful for you. You're going to crush it at South Carolina. David, thank you for always being such a light and so much fun to be around. You're so funny, and I can always look forward to whatever funny new thing is going to come out of your mouth at the internship. I can't wait to see how you're going to do at Sanford and for these next 4 years with you. To Riley, thank you for always being so kind to me. You're such a joy to be around and so full of life. It's been an honor getting to work alongside you this year, and I can't wait to see how you continue to lead Stone Creek next year. To Jake, thank you for always being a great friend. I've known you since freshman year, and it's been so cool watching you grow over these past 4 years. Thank you for being my guitar buddy and for always being so flexible when I throw out last-minute song changes for anything we're singing for. Ansley, thank you for being so giving. You are the queen of gift giving and always offer to grab Starbucks or other random things for the interns, and I just want you to know that does not go unnoticed. You have such a giving heart, and I admire that about you. I've loved getting to lead alongside you on the stage this year, too. You're going to do big things in Kentucky. To Cooper, thank you for always caring. You've always been able to read me and know when to check in on me. You're the funniest guy I know and such a joy to be around. You're so evidently on fire for Jesus, and I admire that about you. I'm honored and excited to be doing life with you, and I can't wait to lead alongside you at Sanford and see what God has in store for you. To KK, you came in just when I needed you. I prayed for a best friend like you for a long time, and man, God provided. Thank you for loving me so well and providing me with such a fun, life-giving, and faith-filled friendship. I've loved growing so close over this past year, and I know you're going to do big things at K-State. You can be expecting weekly FaceTimes from me. 12 hours has nothing on us. You're such an amazing girl, and I can't wait to hear all of the ways that God uses you in Kansas. To Eliza and Svenja, y'all have been the best addition to the Wake staff this year. Y'all both bring such a fun energy to the internship and are such good role models. I'm gonna miss y'all next year. To Sean, thank you for being the best boss ever, but more importantly, for being such a good friend and mentor. I can't thank you enough for the way you've pushed me in my faith and helped craft me into who I am today. Thank you for leading so humbly. To Jackie, I'm so beyond thankful for the friendship we have formed this year. You have quite literally been an influence in all aspects of my life. Thank you for the long conversations, for always being a shoulder to cry in, and for being so fun. You taught me just how much fun loving Jesus is, and I'm forever grateful for that. I love you, Jackie. PJ, thank you for being the best little brother I could ever ask for. You are awesome and such a ball of energy, and I love that about you. You're the best dance partner I could ever ask for, and I see Jesus' light shine through you and your smile every day. You're my best bud. Lastly, to Ansley and Campbell. I cannot thank y'all enough. Thank you for pushing me to come to Wake. I can confidently say that I would not be up here on stage if it weren't for y'all. You both helped me find my way to Jesus, and for that I'm forever thankful. Y'all are such beautiful young women, and I'm so proud of you. I didn't think I was going to cry at this part. I can't wait to see how God continues to use y'all, especially while I'm away at college. Please know that my dorm is always open, and y'all can come stay with me whenever. I love y'all so much. With all of that being said, my name is Brenna Everett, and this is my yearbook.
Come on. Give it up for her one more time. Come on, great job. Well, hey, if you've been here the last few weeks, what we like to do is just take a moment to pray. Like Brenna talked about, community is so important, and us being one body, one church is so important. And man, what I like to think of with the senior class, and I'll talk more about this next week, well, what I like to think about is we're not just sending them away, but we're sending them off into new mission fields. And so man, as we pray for Brenna, what we want to do is we just want to pray that as she goes off to Sanford, that she just steps from Wake into a new mission field. We're launching her out for a new mission. So let's pray for Brenna. We just extend our hands and pray over her, and then we'll go back into worship. Jesus, I'm so incredibly grateful for you. Thank you that you are a God of relationship, that you long for intimacy with all of us. God, that you aren't just some big man up in the sky, aren't just some faraway deity, but God, you are a close and personal God. Jesus, thank you for saving Brenna. Thank you for, man, calling her to your purposes and gifting her with so many gifts to grow your kingdom. And God, thank you for the way she leads worship. Thank you for the way she disciples people. Thank you for the way that she loves her family and friends. And God, I believe that, you are calling her to go to Sanford for a time like this for certain people who desperately need to know you. And so, God, I pray that she would be a light on her campus. God, that she would bring the joy of the Lord there. God, that you would be with her and that her time with you outside the walls of church, just like she talked about, would be so sweet and so life-giving. God, we love you. You are the author of every story, and all glory belongs to you. It's in your beautiful name we pray. Amen.